tornadoes descend on the town of Joplin in southwestern Missouri. These small twisters quickly coalesce to form a massive funnel that would ultimately claim the lives of at least 89 people and obliterate hundreds of homes.
Listen to it!
Joplin's city manager announced the deaths.
It is indeed a sad day in Joplin. It is with a heavy heart that I report that we have 89 confirmed deaths due to this tornado.
Oh my gosh, it's right there. Okay, just go slow, it's gonna cross the road.
A temporary morgue has been set up at the Missouri Southern State University.
Oh my gosh, okay, got it. There, oh my gosh.
Missouri Governor Jay Nixon has declared a state of emergency and ordered the deployment of National Guard troops.
There it is.
One counselor estimated that about 10% of the town bore the brunt of the storm, based on initial aerial surveys showing a swath of damage about 6 miles long and half a mile wide through Joplin.
This is awful.
The storm followed an earlier burst of violent weather that claimed over 330 lives as tornadoes swept through 7 states last month.
What are you doing?
The death toll from this tornado far exceeds that of a huge twister that struck Tuscaloosa, Alabama on April 27th.
Yeah, I don't know where...
Indiana's Supreme Court ruled 3-2 that citizens do not have the right to resist illegal entry into their homes by officers of the law. This means that if a policeman enters your home, at least in Indiana, without consent, and you try to physically impede him, he can arrest you. And that arrest is valid, and you may be punished by law regardless of whether or not the officer was justified in coming into your home or was following procedure. This is a blatant violation of just basic rights and the sanctity of one's home. And while throwing off the police state isn't going to happen overnight, it is very encouraging to know, at least, that someone is already doing something about it. And in this case, joining me now is Stephen Skolnick, a student at Indiana University who is organizing a rally to protest the decision by the Indiana Supreme Court. And today, just 1 week from the event, happens to be Stephen's birthday. So what better way of celebrating than being on television? Stephen, thanks for being with us tonight, and happy birthday.
Oh, it's my pleasure. How are you doing today?
Outstanding, outstanding. So tell me, just by way of background for this, to fill in our audience, what was the case that led to this decision by the Indiana Supreme Court?
The case was Barnes versus the state of Indiana, and what happened was there was a domestic dispute outside their home, and they went inside when the police officers showed up. They were told that they weren't needed, and they came in anyway. Mr. Barnes tried to resist and was forced up against a wall, tasered, and taken to the hospital because he had an adverse reaction to the electrical shock. But
that's typical for human beings, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of an adverse reaction. That's kind of the intent.
Right, but and so he was charged with, I believe, misdemeanor resisting law enforcement, misdemeanor battering a police officer, disorderly conduct, and so there was, it went all the way to the Indiana Supreme Court, and they ruled in favor of the police officers.
Well, not surprising, unfortunately, considering our judicial system is a complete joke at this point. Now, I understand you weren't really politically active before this. This is a first for you.
I have very little political involvement, but I'm a very concerned citizen. I heard about this, and it really alarmed me. And so I decided to see what I could do about it. I didn't see anything going on. I didn't see any great deal of public outcry about this, and so I decided to see if I could fix that.
Well, you are the outcry, and the rally is next Wednesday. Very excited about that. If you want to plug that, you got a Facebook event you're organizing around this. What are you hoping to achieve specifically with this event?
Well, really, we're just trying to draw attention to the issue, and I think in that respect, we've already succeeded a great deal. We've got over, 800 people who have RSVP'd yes to this, and we've got 9,000 more invited, and, that number is just going to keep blowing up over the course of the next week, because, with these new social networks, someone who gets the invite and thinks that it's a good idea, they send it to all their friends. And so we've seen a tremendous deal of public outrage over this because of these violations of people's basic rights. And we're really thrilled that people are making their voices heard, and they're letting their legislators know that they're not going to stand for this. And I've heard that legislation is already being drafted. It's in the works to overturn this.
Outstanding. So are you meeting any kind of resistance from political leaders there, people who appointed those Supreme Court justices?
Not too much, as a matter of fact. It seems that this is one of those issues that people from both sides of the political spectrum can really get behind, because it's just basic violations of the home as the sanctuary. And if you can't feel safe in your home, where can you feel safe?
Correct. Outstanding. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Stephen. Keep up the great work, and best of luck with your rally next week.
Thank you very much.
Outstanding. That was Stephen Skolnick, student at Indiana University, who is organizing a rally to protest the recent Supreme Court decision there.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Monday, May 23rd, 2011, and I'm Darko. This is part 3, everyone, and my website is www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. Check out this poll over here. Do you support a citizen's right to resist unlawful police entry? It's what we just basically saw. And go in there and vote on that. And man, that's awesome that there's a college student and he's not even politically active. And I've talked to a few people and they are upset by this. I mean, it's almost like they want to move out of the state. And this is one of the states where you can carry, you have to conceal it, but you can carry a firearm with you. And you don't pay for taxes for food, so you get a little more freedoms. It's a little more, quote, conservative, if you want to put it that way. But I always try to throw this out there just so people don't think I'm a statist. I actually would promote a stateless society, so I'd rather have that. But if you're going to be a slave to the system, I'd rather be a slave to a small system. So I just want to put that out there. Okay, so Clegg UK Green Bank to begin investing in April 2012. UK Green Investment Bank, one of the major policies of the coalition government, will begin operating in April 2012, according to Nick Clegg. So he said that some of the bank's early targets would be offshore wind, waste, and non-domestic energy efficiency. So he said he warned that the bank would suffer if ministers compromised on their promises. Investing in a greener future is an ambition that combines an ethical duty of stealing tax dollars from people who don't want it. That's very ethical. And an economic duty. No. Oh, what a joke. Australian federal police could become carbon cops. So you just make the police carbon police. The Australian federal police could be required to investigate new climate change offenses. Climate change offenses. I wonder what those could be. Running your water too long under Julia Gillard's carbon tax, sparking concerns over the agency's resourcing. And they're going to blame just ordinary people for, watering their lawn or their gardens because there's droughts in China and in Europe, and it's like, that's not my damn fault. That's Mother Nature, and that's also a man who is spraying and redistributing the water. That's not my fault. So, screw off. No decline in polar bear population. So all the polar bears are sinking and can't swim and they're dying off. Well, the Polar Bear Specialist Group of the International Union for Conservation of Nature, the organization of scientists, has attempted to monitor global polar bear population since the 60s. It issued a report indicating that there was no change in the overall global polar bear population in the most recent 4-year period studied. Then we have ranchers cheered by lifting of wolf protections. That's right, ranchers, having their basically their cattle and all of their animals basically killed by these wolves because there's so many of them. You got all these environmentalists saying, no, don't kill the precious wolves. Well, they come on your property killing your cattle and your livestock. They gotta go. But there's laws that prevent that. It's very unfortunate, but that's just the way it was and the way it is. USDA fined family $4 million for selling bunny rabbits. So another ridiculous story. Like Indiana, in most rural places, you have, you can sell eggs. You have some chickens, you can sell some eggs, some organic, non-pesticide, hormone eggs, brown eggs, from your house, whatever. And eventually that's going to be outlawed. So yeah, selling bunny rabbits is, you're going to pay the price. Ban shopping bags, says EU. The EU was under the fire last night for seeking a ban on plastic shopping bags to fight pollution. Well, why don't you just recycle them? Or why don't you legalize hemp so we can have hemp bags and hemp, pop containers instead of plastic or aluminum or anything like that? It'd be good for the economy, right? Because we can grow hemp instead of corn, which is totally useless, especially since most of it's going towards biofuels and it's driving up the food prices. And, corn itself has no real nutritional value anyways. And hemp and tobacco actually is what created this country, the United States. So for seeking, and of course they're trying to ban that too, tobacco. For a city smoking ban, puffs of disgust. So this guy said it's ridiculous. Roberts 47 in Montreal, she puffed away, we're outside, we should be able to smoke. And that is a new law, can't smoke outside in New York City. Plain packaging causes division. And it has to do with the labeling. If you've ever been to Australia, you've seen the very graphic labels. But basically, I side with the cigarette company on this when it says that other liberals argue tobacco is a legal product and the companies have intellectual rights over their brands, which I think they do. But they're going to try to sue them so that they can lose sales. So a very free market. If you don't like corporate toxic cigarettes, don't smoke them. Roll your own. That's my advice. And quit complaining. Delayed decontamination facility poses new risk. Construction of decontamination facility to treat hundreds of thousands of tons of radioactive water is facing a delay, 1 to 2 weeks. Authorities said on Monday, raising new problems of where to store toxic water and increasing the risk of seawater contamination. 20 terabecquerels of radioactive materials flowed out to the Pacific. TEPCO said on Saturday 250 tons of water tainted with 20 terabecs of radioactive substances leaked in the Pacific Ocean from a pit near the seawater intake of number 3 reactor at the troubled Fukushima plant earlier this month. 61% say all or most abortions should be illegal. And then newborn survives toss down New York City trash chute. And these are the type of examples that people will say, oh, we need to legalize and fund abortions, otherwise people will have back alley abortions. Well, I think that's just kind of tells us about our society a little bit. That's just my personal opinion. If we did have more of a community and family-oriented society, I mean, you wouldn't need a law. You just wouldn't have an abortion because you'd be looked down upon by everybody. But it's so accepted now that, you just take the pill and then you lose your sex drive and then you take another pill for that. And worst case scenario, you just, have it pulled out or vacuumed out and, then it's done, and it's their body. That's what they say. It's their body. They have the right to do what they want. So whatever. Man avoids jail for suicide involvement. Melbourne man who pleaded guilty to inciting his wife to commit suicide after her health battle with chronic pain gets good behavior bond. And we have U.S. court approves life without parole for 14-year-old, and this story is just disgusting. 14-year-old killer to jail without chance of parole and is not an unduly harsh and excessive punishment. And that's crazy. Yeah, it was just insane. This guy took him by basically jumped him, beat him up, then chased him down again. This is in Wisconsin, like a Vietnam, what do you call it? He was from Vietnam, basically, an immigrant. And then they swung him off a 40-foot drop, like took his ankles and just like a pendulum and just tossed him. And people will say, oh, you can't put him in life in prison. Unfortunately, back in the day, he might have been hung or killed for what he did. If he's going to do that then, he's going to do it again. And trust me, I've had some encounters recently with some teenagers, and they are ruthless and vicious. Study on cell phone danger, and it's crazy because they're actually starting shit with grown men that are armed. I don't understand it, and of course I do understand it because what? They're just kids, they don't know better, and the law is on their side. The law is on their side. Study on cell phone dangers prompt major call for school bans. Bill Gates pushes for 90% vaccination rate worldwide. Good go, Bill. 2 dangerous experts you should never, ever believe. American prosecutors are attempting to extradite a Danish scientist, Paul Thorsen, who's been charged with 13 counts of wire fraud and 9 counts of money laundering, a federal grand jury alleges. Says Thorne is said to have used his proceeds to buy a home in Atlanta. And this is basically the guy that was a proponent of vaccinations not causing autism. The vulture funds of death, talking about Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan bundled and sold billions of dollars of mortgage loans, now want to help investors bet on people's deaths. Pension funds sitting on more than U.S. $23 trillion of assets are buying insurance against the risk their members live longer than expected. Awesome. I covered that about 8 months ago. British woman develops allergy to electricity following chemotherapy. Then scientists confirm direct link between bowel cancer and red meat. Well, it's not because of red meat. It's because they're not cleaning out their guts. They have old meat in there. You got to clean it out. This is GGN. I'm Darko. Thank you.